All right. Set us up, Justine.
Welcome, everyone. So glad to see you today. Please feel free to put your name in the chat, where you're zooming in from and your tribal affiliation. And also, please feel free to turn on the closed captioning if needed. We are going to be monitoring the chat, so please ask any questions throughout the webinar in the chat, and we will be paying attention to that. If we don't get to answer your questions during the session, there is going to be some time at the end of our presentation for some Q&A. So please, everyone, have fun. Welcome. Thank you for being here today with us, and I will hand it over to Vanessa.
Hey, everybody. It's so weird always to be in Zoomville where I can't see faces. So if you're comfortable, you're not eating lunch, please join us. But I also understand if you don't, as someone who Zooms all day. Okay, well, let's get into this. Welcome to our webinar on what is the Rematriating Economies Apprenticeship. Next slide, Justine. So we just want to let everyone know or remind you all that we are recording this session, and part of the recording is so that we can put this when it's done up on the website, which is rematriatingeconomies.com. The recording will be edited down and on the website and accessible for anyone after this webinar to follow along and see. You'll also notice that a lot of our slides are very heavy, text dense, and that's again a sort of an archive for the website. So if you don't catch everything in every slide, just know the Zoom webinar video and the slides will be on the website. So that's just for clarity. We're recording. Oh, I see faces. I'm so excited to see your face. You guys bring us so much joy. So Ya'at'e, Vanessa Roanhorse. I am from the Navajo Nation, grew up on the nation, live on Tewa lands in Albuquerque with my family. And I'm just happy to say and introduce you to the team here today. So that's me for this initiative. I am the REA project director, but I'm also the CEO of Roanhorse Consulting, who is the lead partner for the apprenticeship program. And we'll get into all of the folks who are working with us on this, but I just want to invite Justine in to join us and introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. Kawatsi Helpa. My name is Justine Correa. I am from the Pueblo of Laguna, but I also have roots in Acoma and Hopi as well. And I currently work at Roanhorse Consulting as a capital strategies associate. However, with the Rematriating Economies Apprenticeship, I am currently a support person for the REA project. So I'm glad to be here with you all. I'm looking forward to connecting.
And thank you, Justine. And just wanted to give a huge shout out to the rest of our team who couldn't be here because they're all participating and doing some really wonderful things. So we have Elise Dempsey here with us at Roanhorse Consulting. Elise is our project administrator / human being who has been spearheading this for us from the beginning. And we're so grateful for all of her hard work and help. She's actually attending her first alternative economy MBA course, which is called Uplift Economy, and we'll make sure to put that link into the chat. Super great program. I would invite anyone who's interested in taking an accelerated MBA planning and course to look into Lift Economy. We also have Jamie Glocher, co-founder and co-director at Native Women Lead. She's also our close project partner, and she will be one of the teachers who will be participating in the apprenticeship. Everyone who's here has also, just heads up, are co-designers of this initiative. So this isn't just a handful of people, this is the brain trust of all of us coming together to think about how we're going to build this. The next one is Liz Gamboa, who is also another REA project partner with New Mexico Community Capital. She's the executive director. And Liz, if you don't know, actually comes from doing asset management investment work when she was back with Morgan Stanley. And so her direct experience has been invaluable for us. The next is Jacqueline Jennings. She's going to be our investor in residence. And as of course, we can't help ourselves. We had to play with residence, it's res. But her job as someone who was actually one of the first Indigenous women fund managers that started out as a venture manager with Raven Indigenous Capital out of Canada, which is now working also here in the United States, has come along and helped us, one, build this curriculum, leveraging the work that she's done with Raven, but also bringing in her trauma of money curriculum. She's also co-founder of the Fireweed Fellowship, all the good things coming together. And then obviously you met Justine. So this has been the core team, but I'll be honest, Mateo Perez with Roanhorse Consulting has helped us develop all of the beautiful graphics and designs. We had Richard Caravallo who helped us with envisioning this logo, which I'm sure you have questions about, or maybe not. We hope you like it. But also, frankly, all of the folks we've been inspired by who have really encouraged us to lean into our curiosity about this initiative and hopefully deliver something that you all as applicants and hopefully future apprentices are going to love, enjoy, and hopefully through this see you in decision-making opportunities into the future. So just a big shout out to the team, and all of us here are just so glad to see so many of your faces today. So just for some context, because nothing comes out of nothing. This has been years in the making. And I just want to honor how we got here. And I want to provide an overview of how all of this works. So back in 2021, the Equality Can't Wait Challenge was announced. And it was announced that there was going to be 3 winners of $10 million to put together a proposal focused on how do we increase more women into roles where they have influence and power. And as one of the co-founders of Native Women Lead and owners Roanhorse Consulting, some of the work we've been really focused on is access to capital. How do we move more resources to Native women entrepreneurs in a way that doesn't replicate the same harmful processes, that looks at the way our women entrepreneurs are resourcing themselves? So for an example, in partnership with Native Women Lead, we've come up with multiple funds using what's called character-based lending and different types of underwriting and criteria that doesn't use the 5 C's of credit. And if you've ever had to walk into a bank with all of your things in hand, hoping they give you some money, the 5 C's of credit is usually the first place they look. And as someone who has actively, for her business, tried to get a line of credit or a startup loan, both denied, by the way, we know how hard this is. So in the development of all of our funds, and in our partnership with New Mexico Community Capital, who provides a lot of on-the-ground, high-touch technical assistance resource supports to Native entrepreneurs, we came together in 2021 and said, let's throw our hat in the ring. Let's just see what happens. We don't know what this is going to look like, but let's focus on the fact that we know, due to all the data and statistics out there, who's starting businesses the fastest. We know who are the primary breadwinners, and as our lovely friend Jamie likes to say, and bread makers are in our families. So what if we said, let's take all of the biggest ideas we can come together with, put it together. And I'm proud and so grateful to say that at the beginning or towards the end of 2021, we were one of the final 3 recipients of $10 million. And in that $10 million, one of the initiatives that we came up with was, is this so exhausting to be an Indigenous person and an Indigenous woman trying to go out there to raise capital to move resources to more Indigenous women entrepreneurs? Because no matter where we went, they didn't understand the stories we had. There was a lack of not only cultural relevance, but there was a real lack of empathy about our stories and the unique challenges we're facing. And as you can imagine, the sector investment is actually very male, very white. and let's be real, those folks are not going to understand how risk looks to us And they don't have relationships with community members on the ground building incredible businesses. One of the things I've spent the last 7 years of my career dealing with is, hey, we want to invest in Native entrepreneurs, Native women entrepreneurs. This is what we want to invest in. This is how much money they need. This is where they got to be. This is the sector they have to fit in. And we need them to be able to exit at a certain price point. And every time they would give me their laundry list of things, I was just like, okay, who are you talking to? Like, I don't know that many Native women businesses that are out there trying to launch the next Twitter, that are out there actively trying to build companies that they want to sell in 5 years at 7x. I'm not saying they don't exist, but I will say it's going to take us time to build that relationship, to resource, to source, and then support these women to get to those places. But what was most frustrating was how binary the conversations were. So the Rematriating Economies Apprenticeship was born because, let's be honest, as someone myself who did not go into the field of finance, I don't have a financial background. I am a baptism by fire person who figured a lot of stuff out on my own. I just knew I wanted to see more of us in these rooms because I know we know how to invest in each other. And through this partnership, through the Futures Indigenous Women with Native Women Lead, New Mexico Community Capital, and Roan Horse Consulting, we are so proud to be able to offer the first of its kind ever in the United States apprenticeship program to support Indigenous women to move into fund management and asset management. So that was very long-winded, but it's important that we tell the stories on how we got here, because it's also been years in the making. And most importantly, it's a collective effort. This doesn't happen out of one organization or one person. This is a community lift. And so that's how we're approaching REA. Next slide. Okay, so I kind of prefaced this, but let's get real on what's out there. So we put in our sort of dream tank, which is, we know as Indigenous people, there is another economy possible, ... which means we know before colonization, we had economies of scale. So what does it look like today? So in 2021, women were in a position to raise just 2% of the record $330 billion in venture capital. And if you've been paying any attention to what's been happening with venture capital, with the recent collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank, to the recession and the ways in which we're seeing inflation affecting costs and small businesses, we know that the $330 billion in venture capital that was available in 2021 is going to get smaller, which means that more women and people of color are going to get even less. So the fact that we know that women could raise 2% in 2021, the projections into the future is it's going to look more bleak. And of that, and again, this is a data issue, we know that 2% or less than that, of that percentage, 50% went to Black women, and of that, approximately 51% went to Latino founders, 71% went to Asian women, less than 71%, and a meager 0.004% went to Indigenous founders. So much of that is about representation. So much of that is about having the actual relationships to know where these founders are. But most importantly, so much of that is about the lack of real understanding and data, because we don't have the same receipts or the information available to illustrate what the biggest challenges are. We know, because it's a lived experience, what the challenges are. So the work forward is to start to build the story, but also through the apprenticeship, start to whittle down the number of Indigenous founders who don't get to access capital, and increase representation, ideally in these sectors. So even when we've been working through all of this, we came together and said, well, I guess everyone's going to report these these bleak statistics. So what do? Well, instead of sitting around you know, we kind of got together and said, I guess it's up to us to do something about it again. So I'm happy to say that this program has been designed by Indigenous women for Indigenous women. Next slide. So before we kind of dive into the nuts and bolts of everything, we want to kind of talk about why rematriation. What does it mean to us? And as you can see, we decided, because we believe that this is an ever-evolving conversation, but that for us, we chose the word because we believe it's about recentering Indigenous women as caretakers and leaders of resources that support family, communities, tribes, and nations. We think that's really critical, and we want to do it in a meaningful way. Another, we believe that rematriation is about rebalancing of the feminine energy back into decision circles. Something I've personally experienced has been others asking me, is this about women usurping men in their roles? Is this about women taking all the leadership? And for me, it's not just a men and women issue. It's about, as a Diné person, we embody multiple genders, and we embody a concept that, you know, you need the masculine, the feminine, the non-binary to balance yourself. And so for us, we really wanted to focus on bringing feminine energy back into decision circles, meaning bringing the way our people had always been, which was in harmony around how choices and decisions were made collectively for the community. So for us, again, rematriation is that rebalancing. It's about returning back. I don't want to even know, just want to say returning, but leaning forward back into what balance looks like. So this is our approach to what we think is rebuilding and reimagining systems through a matriarchal lens. Next slide, Justine. And of course, we have a mission and a vision, as you can see. We hope this apprenticeship will increase representation of Indigenous women in asset and fund management, period. We hope to do this by providing the technical investment training, coaching, and job placement through a lens of rematriation. And as you recall, our version of that above is that through this apprenticeship, we hope we create a strong cohort. We will work with the placement partners at the end of this to work with us to continue to foster and create space for Indigenous worldview, to create space for the placement partners and the apprentices to learn from one another. But most importantly, we want to foster an environment in which we know the capital system has been very traumatic and harmful for all of us, to try to find a way to create a circle so that we can continue to not just survive, but ultimately thrive in these positions. And so we're going to do it by uplifting and amplifying and elevating Indigenous women toward economic liberation and influence in the financial investment space. That's a huge task, but we believe it is possible. And we hope through REA, this is the first of many opportunities, not just for us, but hopefully across all of our nations and tribes, to want to see more of us in those places. And so this is the offering, and we're so glad you're here with us today. Next slide. Okay, so let's get into it. What is REA and how are we going to do this? Well, we have decided that we wanted to offer a paid 5-month apprenticeship. We're going to treat this apprenticeship like a job. We believe your time is valuable. We believe that what you're bringing is valuable. We also believe that the folks we're bringing to the table to work with us on this is valuable. So in order to create an opportunity to really wrap our heads around fund management, what are all the ins and outs of that? How does it work? What is like an investment statement? How do you actually like analyze a deal? It's going to take time. But it's also 5 months because for us, we wanted to make sure that alongside the hard technical skills work that you're going to learn, We're going to weave in elements of the trauma of money. We're going to weave in coaching and mentoring. And we're going to weave in opportunities to really kind of go deep around the brilliance of Indigenous ways of being and world being, and really look at the history of how we as Indigenous people have participated actively and led as economic experts. So it's a combination of stuff that you can probably get at most apprenticeships available around this. But what makes it, I don't know if it's special, but what makes it identified for us is we baked in a whole bunch of things that we felt was really important. And again, for someone like myself, who've actually had been to 2 fund management cohorts, I've been through 2 different types of fellowships. I wish I had this. And so we hope this is gonna really, really connect us all to this work. And here's more specifically the detailed information. We talked about bringing in the trauma of money and trauma-informed facilitators. We're gonna have investment industry experts across the country join us from all walks of earth, from folks who have managed venture funds in the billions to folks who are creating alternative funds and capital products in their communities. We're also going to have a lot of one-on-one and group career path coaching, because if this hasn't been something you've been already focused on in your life, it's really critical to know what the pathway looks like, where you want to go, and what's out there. And we really hope this one-on-one and group career path coaching will provide that honest space for us to be like, do we really see ourselves here? Do we really want to be here? And then we really hope the cohort develops a deep relationship with one another, because beyond this 5-month paid apprenticeship, we hope to foster a continued conversation across the cohort. And as you can see, the goal is to place every apprentice in an existing fund. We're going to be working with placement partners and you to find the right fit and ensure that we can put you somewhere where you're going to be able to take everything you learned and implement it and try it and test it. So that is something we're really committed to and are continuing to build out who those partners are. Our anticipation is that this is kind of going to be about a part-time job. And so we're anticipating that sessions per week will be about 20 hours. All of them aren't going to be, it's not like you have to be on Zoom for all of those, but there'll be the one-on-one coachings, there'll be circles, there'll be groups. And we're also baking in that 20 hours, I believe, homework, right? You're going to have to do homework. But as our way to sort of say, but we don't want you to just do this and then at the end, maybe this wasn't the right fit. We want to also pay you for that time. So we want to treat this apprenticeship like you should have treated apprenticeship, which is you're learning something to eventually work into this sector. So let's start with a $35,000 stipend. And so this will be a contract, and we're currently working right now with our lawyers around how we can structure this to manage any tax issues, challenges you might have around it bumping you over. So we're not 100%, but we know baseline, we want to give you $35K for your time. And we want you to treat this like, a fractional job. Lastly, for the times we're going to meet in person, which at this point is 2 times, we will absolutely be covering travel and lodging. So that's sort of the nuts and bolts, as well as I think a little bit more information about what makes this different from any fund management apprenticeship or fellowship program out there. Next slide. So who are we looking for? And we hope you're all ready for this. We're looking for Indigenous women who are located in what is known as the United States. We hope you can commit at least 20 hours per week to attend the sessions. This is really critical because not only does it relate to how you get paid out of the 35K, but it's also critical because we really want to make sure that we build the community, the conversation, and the opportunity. So ensuring you're able to carve the time out is going to be so necessary. We hope that you are also able to travel to various locations nationwide. If there are other issues requiring mobility, we can definitely work with you on that. Ideally, we're also looking for folks who have some experience in the financial sector and are aspiring to be fund managers. We really want to encourage people who this is what they want to do. This isn't just another certification or training that you want to have on your resume. We really want you to be excited about being in this sector. Because like I said, we're putting a lot of time and effort into finding placement partners, but also we want to know after the first year, what's working, what's not working. And we really hope that you're continuing in this profession. We really encourage folks to want to be curious. We use curiosity as a key point because, let's be honest, talking about money is and has a lot of, we all have different relationships with it as individuals, as families, and then as Indigenous people. So we want to lean into the curiosity space, which is how can we still hold that complexity and still continue to understand why we want to be in these places. Obviously interested in learning about investment capital, because if you're not interested, this might not be the right fit. We really hope that our participants are going to maintain a cultural connection and commitment to their ancestral homelands and people. And that can be defined in many ways. I don't want anyone to be like, well, what does that mean? We hope as we get closer to finalizing the 10, that in our conversations and in our interviews, we can talk about how that connects. And this has so much more to do with just the way we think about capital and economics. And we're curious and we're excited to hear how people are internalizing this and how this will support them and their families and their communities back home. And lastly, because it's legally required, you got to be 18 years or older. That's just because we don't have the capacity to do a youth program yet, but we hope, creator visioning future, that there might be an opportunity. And lastly, you can see in our asterisks, when we talk about women, we're inclusive of all women self-identifying. So we just want to make that really clear. Okay, next slide. So where are we? So here we are. We're just at the beginning of this. So here you are, March 13th through April 10th, the application is open. So please get your applications in by the 10th of April. I don't remember if the application closes, what time of the day it closes. We'll make sure to answer that by the end of this. But once we close the application, we'll be moving into the review process, which will start on the 11th through May 10th. And then starting May 19th, we'll do the first selection of the cohort where apprentices will be notified. In between those sections, there's going to be a two-step process. There'll be the first, you'll do your application, which is super simple, shouldn't take more than 10 minutes. I think we clocked it at 8 minutes to submit your first round application. If you make it to the next round, we will then invite you to a much more comprehensive application in which you're actually going to provide some information, CV, bios, references, etc. But you're also going to be asked to do some homework in preparation for an interview, in which we're going to provide some pitch decks from some of our entrepreneurs who we've worked with collectively, and you're going to come back and tell us what you thought. And that part of the application process is going to be about, at minimum, an hour and a half of your time. And so once we get through that, the final conversation will be walking through the commitments. We're going to invite the final 10, and we're going to talk with you about, can you commit to the 20 hours? Are you able to participate and provide us the information that we need over time. What is your tax situation? And then we're going to go through contracts and agreements. And by that point, you know, folks may decide this is actually too much, which is okay. Or they're going to say, yes, sign me on. So by the 19th, we should be in that final process. So there's a few steps in here that are going to happen to get us to the 10. And of course, because we love all the seasons, we have planned to try to launch this thing around summer solstice. So you can see our fun little moon, and it feels really right. It feels like the perfect time to really launch something special and something big. And that'll be our first kickoff event here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where we'll bring everybody together. And that will be the beginning of the 5 months. And so we'll continue between July through November with a huge celebration and graduation in November of the first cohort. In between, we might have a few cool events that are happening in partnership with Native Women Lead and the Futures Indigenous Women, one being a capital summit potentially in San Francisco. And then another is attending SOCAP, which is the Social Capital Markets Conference. It's the biggest impact investing conference in the country, and it's also in San Francisco. So there'll be some potential fun things to do in between the cohorts, but for now, this is the timeline that we have. Next slide. Okay. So what I'm about to do, and just a reminder, because I feel myself talking a lot and my voice is starting to crack and I need to drink some water, is we're going to have a Q&A section after this. So don't worry, if you have questions, feel free to dump it into the chat at any time. But we want to get through all of this so that we can then hold some space at the end for all the questions you have. So I'm going to turn this over to Justine, and Justine's going to basically walk through the process to apply for the first part of the apprenticeship program. Go for it, Justine.
Awesome. Thank you, Vanessa. So this is what you'll see, and I'll actually go and navigate to the Rematriating Economies website. This is the homepage, and after this lovely photo, you'll scroll down and you'll find the Apply Today button, which will bring you to the application. And like Vanessa explained, there's going to be multiple rounds of this application. So this is going to be the first round. You can see here that there's going to be some instructions. I did drop in the chat as well that the application closing date is going to be April 10th at 5 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. And you'll just proceed to fill in all of these fields here. If at any point you have any questions, we have Elise, who is going to be our point person. You can always reach out to her if you have any questions or experiencing any difficulties. But this form is very straightforward. You know, it's going to take you about 10 to 15 minutes possibly. But if you have any trouble, please just reach out. It's fairly easy to navigate. And if you have any questions, you know, we're here to support you. So that's going to be how you're going to navigate to the application for the apprenticeship.
Awesome. And so with that, we are going to stop and hear any questions you have, clarifications, things you want to learn more about. Feel free. So maybe the best way to do it is you're welcome to raise your hand using the reactions button on the bottom. If you have one, you're welcome to just put it in the chat and we can answer it directly. But we're here and we just want to hang out with you all now and hear what's going on. Or if we did such an amazing job and there's no questions, feel free to just say, you know, thank you and you're welcome to get your time back, but we will stay on and hang out and talk. So whatever feels good.
Hi. Hi, good afternoon, sisters. It's so good to see you. I'm excited for this. I definitely want to apply. Working in the field of philanthropy, too many times we come into situations where we're not only like coming against all these folks that have a background in this, know how to speak this language, and I feel, at a deficit many times because I don't speak that language because I'm a woman. Then on top of that, I'm a Native woman, and knowing all the slivers of funds that are available to us, and also being a small business owner myself, I guess, moving forward with some of my questions, what I'm curious about is, for those of us that have full-time jobs, is it possible to have like some kind of collaboration with the employer? And what would that look like? And then I guess my second question is, can you share a little bit more about the pitch that would be after the round 2? Getting nervous already. No.
I know. I'm like, I can't tell you too much, but so for the first question, Joni, I'm wondering if I understand it. So what you're asking is, as someone who works full-time, and you would want to talk with your potential placement partner to see, I guess, are you curious about, is there a room to build a relationship with them? Or is it, as someone who's working full-time, to like create something that fits your schedule?
I would just general kind of like, if I'm already employed, am I like eligible to apply?
I think the answer is, if you're able to carve it out so that you can attend the 20 hours during the times you need to attend.
Okay.
So I guess that would be dependent upon your full-time employment and how flexible they would be to that. And then after the 5 months, the goal is to place you. And again, we're going to learn together through this process, but our plan is to place you at a minimum as a fund associate, a fund analyst, or a fund intern at a place that's going to pay you. Our key thing is we're looking for placement partners that can ensure they have the resources to cover your salary. So you're not hustling to cover your own salary. Gotcha. And you're not getting an unpaid internship. So I would say that'll depend on the placement partner's need and design. And we don't have them all secured. But I think the biggest one is confirming you can actually make the hours that are required. And then at the end, be prepared to have placement partners who want you full-time.
Okay.
And then the second question, we're still let's be real. We're like building the rocket ship while we're in it. We have the decks. We're currently working on the questions, but really the idea is to share something with you, ask some questions, just to get a sense on how you're synthesizing the information. What are the opportunities to invest in the company? What are the challenges? What are you seeing? And a lot of this is really around the critical thinking about what are you seeing, but what's behind what you're seeing? And then how are you synthesizing the financial information?
Okay, cool. I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Go for it, Kelly.
Hi, Vanessa, Yate. Hi, Justine. So I am curious. Oh, and I'll just say it's so good to see other sisters' faces as well. I'm curious about the experience in the finance sector. If you could offer some like examples, or so my work is in the fundraising space. Like, does that align given that it is finance affiliated? So I'm curious if you could expand there.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. And one of the things we really try to not center were folks who were coming with MBAs, folks who already work in the financial. It's not that we don't want all of those folks, but we wanted to just acknowledge that, like, the ability to do this work should really just come from a desire and a passion. And we hope to demystify what a lot of this stuff means. So when we think about working in the financial sector, ideally, we're hoping people have experience managing and overseeing budgets, know how to read financials, ideally have maybe we're even interested in folks who have businesses and have had to start up a company and know how hard it is to capitalize it, know how hard it is to go find the capital, and then also have had to set up their own accounting systems, create their own cash flow reports. But the idea is like, we want people who can deal with spreadsheets, are comfortable working in that space, have some relationship managing tribal funding. I think working and doing fundraising for philanthropy is its own crazy type of financial sector that does crazy stuff with grants and, taxes and whatnot. But the thing is, like, we want folks to demonstrate that they can, they're comfortable enough with financial, I'm spacing for words, that they're comfortable within the financial conversation, understand what the financial sector looks like, and are willing to dive in deeper into some of these conversations. So some of it's going to be about getting comfortable looking at fund modeling, right? Funds have different models, and you're going to have to figure out how those models work, because you have to raise different types of capital, and it's called capital stacking over a period of an investment. So how do we do that? And I'll be honest, I am not the numbers person. That is not my jam. And so that is something for me that I've had to struggle through. So we want to just see where folks can be most invigorated. So it's very broad, as you can tell. And some of that has a lot to do with the fact that we don't know what we don't know. We don't know who's out there.
That's helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kelly. Vanessa, we had a question in the chat, and it is from Trina Starr, asking, with the 20 hours a week requirement, what time of the day will these sessions be?
So that is going to be part of our continued building out, and some of that might come a little bit from the final participants. But we know a portion of it is going to be during the working hours. So it's always going to be Monday through Friday. And, working hours will probably be 9 to 4 p.m. Trying to think about all the time zones. However, if we find out in the application process and the rounds that folks are really gunning, I don't want to use gunning, that's a terrible word, that folks are really interested in evening classes, we might look at that as well. But for now, I would say anticipate daytime as well. Just because of where all the speakers, the coaches, and everyone are going to be coming from, we're literally going to be coordinating across 5 time zones to get everyone's schedules coordinated. So once we lock it in, we anticipate definitely some times during the day and potentially some evening hours, but we're still kind of honing that down. But it's a really great question. And I just have to say, this is one of the exciting and potentially frustrating things about working with a new initiative that doesn't have everything fully organized yet, is we're in startup learning mode with you all.
Thank you, Vanessa, and thank you for Trina for bringing that to our attention. We have Mary in the chat who also asked, can you talk more about the training that would be provided around impact investing or alternative economic models?
Yes, so we have this, we've created a session guide with Jacqueline Jennings and our team, and in it, we basically are going to work through all the different types of investment models that are there. And that's going to include impact investing, venture capital, debt lending, grant making, and all the tools inside each of those to give a broad overview. But we are going to lean into alternative economic models, because a lot of our placement partners will be impact investing funds. So we're starting with impact investing funds, partially because we have a lot of great relationships with impact investing funds, but we also think impact investing funds are actually really interested, willing, and wanting to design funds that address racial and gender inequality issues. And our hope is in that partnership with our impact investing fund partners, that they're also interested in not just DEI, but they're serious about creating inclusive spaces that are brave, and as well as wanting to retain staff, right? Like they're going to work to keep staff, and that's going to be part of the learning. So we're going to be looking at impact investment as the final placement, but through the training and the sessions we've come up with, we want to give you the overview of what all of the different models are. And a lot of the models that we mostly know about are pretty vanilla, right? Venture capital is a pretty vanilla model. Bank lending and debt lending is pretty vanilla. But there are lots of new types of hybrid funds being developed, as well as things called integrated capital, which includes debt and grant lending. We're going to look at things like convertible debt. We're going to look at things like convertible notes, revenue-based instruments, because those, to me, as Vanessa Renors, that's where our opportunity lies, because we know venture capital is going to do venture capital. And it's not to say we don't want folks in venture capital, but it's like, if we can find a way to work in a space that's interested in investing in our people and our community, we're going to start there. And again, we had to pick one of these models ultimately. And it wasn't easy. I mean, I think our first session we had about a year ago, we were like, let's just let them choose their own path. Like the old books we used to read, right? Like you get to choose your own adventure. But the more we did it, the more we started modeling that out, the more we realized, but that we're not setting anyone up for success. That we would have to provide such general information that we wouldn't get into the more direct information for where you would be placed. So this is a really long-winded answer, and forgive me because I'm very long-winded this way. I'm trying to provide complexity around impact investing, importance of alternative economic models, and then how it sits in the spectrum of the way investing has worked for so long. And we hope we're going to be able to do this with well. And in the placement in an investment impact investing fund partner, that we also place you somewhere where they're excited and wanting to learn with us, versus this is how we do it and this is how you have to do it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
That makes great sense. And sorry, Vanessa, I'm off camera today because I'm not feeling well. I'm actually sick, so I was mostly staying on mute. But that's extremely helpful, and I'm super excited. And just really excited about the impact investing and alternative economic models, and have been following Native Women Led on the Transformative 25 and integrated capital investing. So I'm super excited to see this opportunity and look forward to applying.
We can't wait for your application, Mary, and feel better.
Yeah, feel better. Thank you.
Awesome, Kim.
Thanks, Kim.
That is exciting. We really hope so, Kim.
Any other questions?
Well, thank you all. I mean, Justine and I are going to hang out. So we're going to hang out here. So feel free to jump off if you need to go. We totally get it. Folks are busy. Reach out to us if you have any questions. Justine, do you want to throw in Elise's email? She might kill me later, but if you have anything, send an email to Elise. Oh, there it is. It's all there. Okay. And Elise will get back to you. Elise is the carekeeper of all of the details, FAQ. And again, hopefully by today, end of day today, we'll have this back up on the website, this video and the slides available if you want to return to look at it. Please share this information with your friends, your colleagues. We really want to see what's out there across the country. We really want to encourage applicants to feel excited about doing this, because hopefully, as you can see, we're coming with true vulnerability, transparency, and honesty about why we're doing this. And also, we hope that you'll join us on the journey. We really believe in you and know all of this is possible. So, yeah, for all of
Thank you.
attendance.
Thank you. I have a quick question for you guys. I know you're limited to only 10, but however, we can see just off this call, we have more than 10. Will there be some sort of, this is a great start for us to stay connected, but will there be something like maybe an ongoing resources for those that, don't get to participate, but still want to continue to learn, self-teaching or through whatever might be collaboratively going on. I can't talk today, but just something, because I mean, ideally, I was just scrolling on the web when I seen this come across, and me and my coworker, we were just like, this is something we're already starting to do on our own, just self-teaching. So we were like, so it was right away like, let's share this, and we're and she's on here now as well too. But it's interesting because whether some of us, get accepted or not, some of us are still going to still do our own journey of learning.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to kind of have something to go to from a resource standpoint.
Yeah. I'm
just just going to throw it out there to you guys.
We'll take it. It's a really good question. Maybe we can sidebar this one deeper. And if anyone is interested, just raise your hand or put your name in the chat and the email. But it would be really great to just kind of be like, well, what does that look like? Right? Because we're going to find the 10. And to be honest, we have to just be we want to manage expectations. Our hope is to continue not to do this, but to expand into other investment sectors, obviously. But it's a game of fundraising. It's a game of making sure this first pilot is super successful, that we have data and receipts, all this stuff, right? But along the journey, we have talked a lot about how do we share this back with everyone on what's working, what's not working. But we haven't been really thinking about those who end up maybe not making the final 10. How do we continue to foster that community and that conversation? Because again, at the end of this, whether it's through this program or something you're doing on your own, we want to see us in this space regardless, right? So if you're interested, honestly, Trina, maybe we can talk about it. It could just be as simple as a newsletter. It could be as simple as a Slack channel. It could be as simple as a high-low community. But if anyone has deep experience in that stuff, feel free to reach out to us. And also anyone interested in helping us foster that community, because as you know, everyone is super swamped these days. So I'm just putting that out there. I'm always trying to lean into the fact that we don't know what we don't know, and you all are the brain trust for us. So yeah, so I'm interested in that. I'm interested in the exploration, and we should definitely start talking about that, especially as we get to the final 10.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you for even just doing this. This is amazing and definitely well needed. I'm glad you all had that vision. So
oh, yeah. Yeah, maybe we do use Center Native, Justine. Duh. We have a platform at Roanhorse Consulting we just launched. Can you throw that into the chat, Mateo or Justine? We could create a community there within the community for this, but we'd have to explore it. But anyways, long story long, let's keep that conversation going. All right, we have 1 minute. We're going to play us some outro music in a second. And also just a heads up, if I've seen I have had a couple direct messages to me, but I'm gonna let anyone who sent me a direct message know. I am unable to get into my messages for some reason. I'm having an issue on my end. So just know, I'm sorry if I haven't responded, but thank you for sending me the note and I'll try to get back to you. I'd be interested in the Capital Finance Network. I'm also currently involved in the creation of the Restore, Assert, and Defend network that is dedicated to conservation economy. We meet monthly on the full moon. Wow. Wow, Kim. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Great.
Awesome.
Good to know. Thank you, Kim.
I'm going to say about the RAD network. We call ourselves the RAD network anyways, because we're super rad.
I was like, you're radical.
I think you are rad.
We talk a lot about finance and alternative finance, and like we are doing a whole bunch of case studies on Indigenous led like conservation finance models that are currently out there, not just like in Canada, in the United States, and internationally. And so like a lot of international folks have now docked in to the network, which is really great. So that's kind of cool, like, but it's so new. So I get this idea that like it's really hard to just like start a network. Because this has been like a year-long thing until we got to the full moon gather. We got to the idea of full moon gatherings, which just started last month. Or no, in January, sorry, right after COP15. So, yeah.
Yes, starting networks and creating the cadence, the trust, the decision-making processes takes time. I don't know why anyone thinks it doesn't. So kudos to you all and being rad. Well, I just want to manage time. It's 1:31. And so we just want to say thank you guys for joining us today. And please reach out to us if you have any questions. And thank you, Justine and Mateo, for being here. And with that, we're going to leave you with some Nina Simone.